Dr. Hayden, thank you. We're in probably what I view as one of the prettiest buildings in all of Washington, D.C. I love the Library of Congress, and I guess you would consider yourself as there's the commander-in-chief, and I think you would consider yourself the commander of all the libraries. The librarian of the Library of Congress is a big deal.
Well, it's the nation's library, too. We serve Congress and the people that Congress serves, so it's great to be here with you.
Yeah, I had a constituent that it made her day. It made her year to just be able to come and sit here for a day just researching things. But 6 years to the day, is that correct?
6 years to the day today, and one of the best projects that I've been able to work on and see expand has been the Veterans History Project.
Something that our office is very excited about as well. Utah has, every state has a claim to veterans. Our whole entire nation has served our country, but Utah, we have a really important Air Force base in Utah that gravitates a lot of things. It creates an interest for people and individuals to want to go and serve in the military, but it's such a wonderful place to live that once people have served at Hill Air Force Base, they actually end up staying or coming back when they're done with their service to live in Utah. So there's a lot of different reasons, but Utah has a really, really strong veteran community, and it's an honor to be able to serve them. And that's what we're doing, what you all are doing and have started with this project is something that our team grabbed onto, and we are really excited about the Veterans History Project.
More than 20 years ago, Congress created the Veterans History Project, and it was designed to preserve the first-hand experiences of American veterans. It's an archive of oral histories to explain the personal sacrifice and the service of military service members and their families. And it's meant to inform and inspire later generations. So far, the library has amassed more than 112,000 veterans collections.
I just spoke to a group of veterans at a veterans nursing home named after George Wallen, who's a Medal of Honor recipient in Utah. And I kind of introduced the project, and we're starting to communicate this out. We have a goal to be, to do as many as anybody else has done, right? And so we're going to push for that. And we already have certain people in the community that are excited about doing it. But again, just the basics of the project is an opportunity for veterans and their families in some cases to just tell their story.
Right, and it's an interview process. So just like we're sitting here now, you can get instructions on how to talk to the veteran in your life. And it's a quick overview. One of the first things they tell you is ask about basic training. Because so many veterans we're finding say, oh, I didn't really do that much. I didn't do that. Well, start about basic training and go from there. So there are all kinds of tips on how to bring the veteran out and get those stories there. And also to think about it as something that can even help in even your own family, because so often we also hear stories that veterans don't even talk about some of the conflicts they've been involved in with their own family members, and so that's important.
So that's what I shared with this group last week, was that I would give anything to have my grandpa be forced to have talked about it, because you had to pry it out of him sometimes. And he served valiantly in the South Pacific. And has some incredible stories that we've lost. Yes. And so it's a bit of my motivation, my team for putting this together. Good. Our motivation is so there are fewer of me out there wishing, I wish I had my grandpa on. We've got a scrapbook. My grandma did a scrapbook for him. But to have him interviewed as a part of this program would be something I want. And I love that you talk about basic training, because my dad served in Vietnam. He had friends that didn't come home. He never served in Vietnam, and he always starts with that. But then if I talk to him enough, he actually talks about basic training. And so it's interesting that you mentioned that, and making it so any veteran feels the value that they've created. They did a lot, regardless of were they stationed here or there or in X conflict versus Y experience, as long as they are able to communicate what they did, because they did sacrifice to be in that role. And I love that brings it out of this.
You said two things that got me excited when you mentioned the scrapbook. Because part of the Veterans History Project is not just the oral histories, the interviews, but it's the letters, the scrapbooks, the diaries, all of the photos, all of these things are then digitized, and then they are made available.
So what happens when we're going to do our job to go and get as many veterans to be a part of it? We've got interviewers lined up that are going to donate their time. We've got space for it. So we've kind of covered some of the logistics, but when those get recorded and we send it back here, what happens?
When the stories reach the Library of Congress, they're preserved and made accessible to researchers. So when we receive a veteran story, it's cataloged and archived so that researchers and the public can access the stories and the artifacts online and in the library's reading rooms. And through ongoing digitization efforts, more than 7,000 hours of audio and 9,000 hours of video are available online, along with original photographs, letters, maps, and diaries.
Thinking after it comes here, how have you seen the families engage with this?
Families want to know and honor the loved ones they've lost. They look for stories of veterans from the same unit, the same conflict and service locations as their loved ones, and then they get a better understanding of what their loved ones experienced. In 2016, Congress expanded the Veterans History Project to include the oral histories of Gold Star family members, parents, spouses, adult children, siblings. And those narratives are powerful reminders about the personal sacrifice of veterans and their families.
And as we get involved in certain issues in Congress and we debate legislation here or there, an underlying issue that so many of our veterans are facing is some of the mental health challenges that they're going through and the PTSD. Nothing is, I'm not a clinical psychologist, but nothing is better than building a strong community. Of course, that individual needs to be working towards something and feeling value in whatever he or she decides to do after their service. But having the connection to community, I think, is just as important to anything that they can be doing individually to help, weather some of these challenges that they face.
Every veteran and their story matters. Each personal remembrance contributes to a fuller, more complete understanding of American history. And we have more than 1,000 stories already from Utah, which is a lot. But there are so many more to collect, preserve, and make accessible of the more than 144,000 Utah veterans.
Well, I'm just really appreciative particularly from Utah and from our community, that are people that are willing to step up and volunteer some of their time and their resources. Weaver State University, they've got communications majors that are going to be willing to go and do some of these interviews. Catalyst Center in Davis County is going to donate their equipment and time. It's a bunch of high school students that are learning really good trade, and they're going to let us come in and use their studios. So a lot of partners in the community and those that are working at veteran centers across the state, helping us communicate it. So thank you all for doing that.
Congressman, I encourage everyone to record interviews and volunteer to record the interviews of others. You can schedule time with a veteran in your life, read the how-to, and watch the brief instructional video on the library's website, loc.gov. You can complete the required biographical and disclosure forms and record and submit the interview to the Library of Congress. So thank you, Representative Moore, and thank all of you.